Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. I literally cannot believe that today is Bookmas Day 11 and I just have one more video to post after this for Bookmas. It's like literally insane how quickly the month of December flew by and also how quickly Bookmas flew by. If you guys haven't checked out any of my other Bookmas videos, make sure to click the link down below so you guys can catch up on all of those too. For today's video, we're going to be doing the end of year book tag. I believe that Destiny Sidwell started this. She asked a bunch of her followers questions on Instagram and there were some really great questions, and then I also saw Rachel Catherine do it too, and then Larry Reeds did it, and then Sarah Caroli did it, and I was like, you know what, a bunch of my favorite creators are doing it. I want to do it too. So today we're going to be doing the end of year book tag. I have all the questions on my laptop and I believe there are like 22-ish questions. So we might be sitting here for a hot minute. So grab a snack, grab a drink, and just settle in. Also, I am only allowed to talk about like a specific book one time besides for like the characters and the quote and like the author questions. But like if it's a question about a specific book, I can't repeat, if that makes any sense. So I'm following that rule, but I'm also not, because I don't want to. So let's begin. Question number one is most disappointing read of the year, and I hate to say this, but for me it was definitely Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Fourth Wing was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. I loved the dragons, I loved the high intensity, I just loved this fantasy world, and the writing was so easy to go through because it's like, I've said this before in my other videos when talking about this series and Rebecca Yarros' writing, but it's a fantasy book written like a romance book, so it's just very easy to digest, and I think that's why so many people who weren't really into fantasy loved these books. This book in the series specifically though just fell flat for me, especially coming off of the high that is Fourth Wing. The first half I really enjoyed and I thought it was really good. It was high stakes, there was stuff going on, but then the second half I feel like truly nothing crazy happened, and then you get to the end and everything was just like super rushed, and I feel like a lot of stuff in the second half could have been wrapped up in like a few chapters rather than like hundreds of pages. Like this book could have been 200 pages shorter and did the same job. I do have to say though, the ending was so shocking and the ending kind of went crazy. So I don't know if that's why other people looked at other things that like happened or didn't happen in this book. I mean, like I'm kind of guilty of that too sometimes. I'll be like, yeah, this book is okay, and then like the ending goes crazy and then I'm like 5 stars, 5 stars, but I just couldn't do that. So I'm excited to see where this series goes, but this book specifically was just not my favorite. Question 2 is the Underdog book of the year, and I'm gonna give this to The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I feel like this was hyped up last year, but not like crazy hyped up, and I feel like a lot of people started talking about this author this year because of the 7-year slip, but a lot of people hadn't really read this one until that one came out, and this book was incredible. I think that if it wasn't like an Underdog book in general, I think for me it was just something that wasn't super hyped up, so I was like, I don't know, like I don't know about this one. I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, but I love this book so much. The story in it, the magical realism, Florence and Benji are just everything, and I just remember sobbing on my couch while I was finishing this book, and it was just so beautifully done, and there's so many like real life things that happens in it, and I just love this. Please read this if you haven't yet. It is beautiful and wonderful and amazing. Question 3, a book that was overhyped. We've obviously had a lot of hyped up books this year, but this one is going to be very personal to me. So just remember, these are all of just my opinion. So if you don't agree with it, that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead. For me personally, the most overhyped book of the year was Akasif. Now, so many people talk about this book saying that this is their favorite in the series. They absolutely love it. They love Nesta and Cassian, and I loved Nesta and Cassian. I liked their story. It's just the way it was written didn't really feel like an SJM book to me for some reason. It was just very different from everything I read before, and I kind of found myself missing Feyre and Rhys. I just felt so connected to them. I mean, Aquawar is my favorite from the entire series, and I just absolutely loved it, and I don't know, I felt like a lot didn't really happen in this book, and then at the end, everything was kind of like rushed and shocking, and like the end was really good, and there were also some other things that happened with like some characters, which I'm not going to get into because I don't want to spoil it obviously for you guys, but this just wasn't my favorite, and it just didn't live up to the hype of the other ACOTAR books for me. Okay, now we have fave book couples of the year. I have 3. So the first one is Iris and Roman from Divine Rivals. They're just so cute. Their love is so wholesome and beautiful, and the way that they talk about each other is just everything, and the way they would literally do anything for each other. I love them. The next two are Emily Henry couples. We have Harriet and Wynn from Happy Place, and then we have January and Gus from Beach Read. These books changed the way that I will forever see a romance contemporary novel, and I just love these characters. They were so real to me. They had such real life struggles, like everything that they were miscommunicating about or whatever, like specifically Harriet and Wynn with the miscommunication, just like made sense, and it's like such like a real thing for a human to do. And Emily Henry's writing, just these books were amazing. I loved them. I love the way she wrote these characters. January and Gus are just so cute and wholesome, and I just love the way that they love each other. It's just very cute. Now onto my favorite main characters of the year. First one is Jax from the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. He was also in the Caraval trilogy, but I've only read Once Upon a Broken Heart. I love Jax. The banter that he has with Evangeline is everything. He's just so we literally blushing just thinking about him. I love him so much. I'm so glad I read these books. Everything that he did for Evangeline and just in general had a purpose, and he never, whatever. I guess he does change himself, but he truly just is everything. And I love his personality so much. I love him. The next two are from the same book. They're from Powerless by Lauren Roberts. We have Peyton and Kai, the two main characters. I do love them together and their banter is amazing, but separately, they're both incredible characters. Kai, kind of like the same thing as Jax. He reminds me a lot of Jax, actually. Just the banter, the way he talks to Peyton, the way he acts and thinks, and I love getting his perspective in that book. Kai is just everything. He might be one of my favorite book boyfriends of the year. And then Peyton is just so strong. She's so determined, and she could literally do anything she puts her mind to. Like, she's amazing. She's literally an ordinary living in a world of elites, and she's still like so powerful. I love Peyton. Such a strong female character. One of my favorites of the year. And then another one is Violet from Fourth Wing. Again, kind of the same thing. Just such a strong female character, even though she goes through so much because she does have a chronic illness. She's defied all odds and she still does, and I just fell in love with her character. I loved reading from her perspective. Next up is going to be a book that surprised you, and this is kind of, I don't know if it's random. It was kind of random for me. It's The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. I actually ended up reading this in a video where my best friend Brooke chooses my reads for me, and I was kind of like, I don't really think I'm gonna like this. I just don't think it's for me. And for some odd reason, I thought that way, even though I ended up loving this, and this was my favorite book in that video. It was just so cute and wholesome, and I love the forced proximity because they're literally roommates. The main guy, Lucas, was just everything. He was just so cutie, and then Rosie was just so cool because, like, sometimes I find whenever I read a romance novel, the main character, especially the main girl, isn't really written with a personality. Like, literally her only personality trait is that she likes the guy, and I cannot stand that. So the fact that she actually had a personality, she wanted to write a novel, she was working towards something, I absolutely love that in romance books. And yeah, I just love this book. I thought it was so cute, and they're such a cute couple. The next question is new favorite author you discovered in 2023. This one is kind of a tough one for me because I have read so many books by so many new authors this year, just because this was like the first year where I truly got into reading. I started my reading journey at the beginning of 2021 reading the Harry Potter series, and then after that, like at the end of 2022, I started reading romance novels. But this year I truly started to read a lot more, so it led me to discover a lot more authors. I mean, obviously Emily Henry, we love her. I really love Ashley Poston, Lynn Painter, Stephanie Garber, and literally so many others. There are so many great authors that I ended up discovering this year. The next question is the happiest read of the year. I'm just kind of taking this as like the book that made me feel the happiest, which I feel like it's just what it is, so I don't know why I explained it, but anyways, that book is going to be Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. If you know me, you know I love this book. To me, Better Than the Movies is literally the textbook definition of what needs to be done in a YA rom-com-y romance book, because this was just so well done. I rated this 5 stars. I absolutely ate this up. Wes and Liz are just so stinking cute together, and I just absolutely love them. And this book and everything that they went through was so real, just because it brought me back to like my high school days, how I thought about boys, what happened whenever I had my first crush. So I found myself relating to Liz so much, and it's just so interesting to be put back in that place of when you were so young and experiencing all those things for the first time. And I just really enjoyed being back. I don't think that YA romances are obviously for everybody, but I definitely think they are a great palate cleanser, and sometimes they're just something that you need, like a nice feel-good book. So if you haven't read this yet, immediately go do it. Next one is the most frustrating book of 2023. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I read some frustrating books, and it was honestly kind of hard to decide. I'm gonna have some honorable mentions here for a second. Maybe Once, Maybe Twice by Allison Rose Greenberg. The first half was incredible, and then my least favorite trope showed up. Absolutely not. Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. Again, my least favorite trope showed up. No. There was a witchy book that I read on Kindle Unlimited. No. No. But the winner of most frustrating book of the year is Once More with Feeling by Alyssa Sussman. Now, did I love the writing in this book? Yes. I love the first one that she came out with last year. The covers are beautiful, but the main character in here was just absolutely insufferable. It was so hard to read her point of view because I'm like, girl, like you are literally so into self-sabotaging yourself that you've ruined almost everything good that you have in your life. And it's not coming from the fact that she doesn't think she doesn't deserve it, because she has so much like confidence. She was just very hard to read about. It was just kind of weird. Also, least favorite trope in here. And I just honestly feel like the guy in this book deserved better. I did read this very quickly though, just because the writing was great. I love Alyssa Sussman's writing, and I'm excited for the next book that she comes out with. And I just hope it doesn't have this trope, and I hope that it has a likable main character. Okay, the best adaptation of the year without a doubt goes to Daisy Jones and the Six. This became a Amazon Prime short show or whatever limited series. It was incredible. The characters were incredible. The music was incredible. I honestly might rewatch this because everybody in there just like everything in here was everything in there. I think besides the ending was like a little bit different. It was just so well executed. It was everything that I wanted, and I feel like that's really hard sometimes, especially because this is like one of my favorite books of the year and also a 5-star read for me, and I think about these characters so much. So it's very hard to like live up to that, obviously, creating it into a series, but they did so well with this adaptation, and honestly, it's all I could ask for an adaptation. I loved it. I loved the series. I loved the book. They did a great job. The next question is the longest book I read this year. Now, Goodreads for some reason says that this book is 912 pages. It is just like not that. It was 896 pages, and that book is the 5th book in the Harry Potter series, The Order of the Phoenix. This book was actually my favorite book in the Harry Potter series as well. The storyline was just so good, and I liked this movie. It wasn't one of my favorites, but the book was just everything, and I don't know if it was just because there were a lot more details in it, and I was just kind of like shocked of like everything that was happening. It was just like really fast paced, even though there was so much going on, and I never really felt bored. So many great plot lines in here. It was whenever they were really starting to grow up too, because it's their 5th year at Hogwarts, and so there's like little relationshipy things going on too, and I love reading like Harry's perspective of everything as he's growing up, because he changes so much, and it's just so interesting, and I love this series, and I really love this book specifically. And then we have the shortest book that I read this year. I did read a few novellas. So the shortest novella that I ended up reading was Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. It was 112 pages, but the shortest like actual book that I ended up reading was 272 pages, and it was In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. This was something that I read very quickly because there wasn't very many pages, but it was also not something I enjoyed very much, just because it was very, I don't know, the plot was very interesting. It was definitely more character driven than plot driven for sure, but just how everything played out, it was just kind of weird, and I didn't really enjoy it very much, but it was a quick read, and the cover is very cute. Now on into my favorite covers of this year. I have one displayed right here, and it is A Curse for True Love, specifically because I got the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Now, this little thingy right here isn't like I'm not crazy about it, you know, but the color, oh my god, the color, it's absolutely gorgeous. When I first saw this in the store, I was like, I love you. I love you so much. All of the exclusive editions of this series are just absolutely breathtaking. I wish that I could have all of them. I have the paperback exclusive edition of Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I wish I had the hardcover exclusive edition of all of them, especially The Ballad of Never After, because that is my favorite book in the series. And I feel like the purple would just be like so freaking cute, but that's okay. I don't cry about it often, but this one is beautiful too. I also haven't read this yet, but I just got this and am hopefully gonna read it before the year is over. And this one is Check in May by Ali Hazelwood. Look at this cover. This is so cute. I'm not normally a fan of people on covers, but I feel like if it's done right, then I really don't mind it, and I just think it's like so stinking cute. This one is one of those. When she came out with this cover art, I was like, that is so beautiful and so well done, and I just love it so much. And then the back is like watercolors. Like You're kidding. This is so gorgeous. I love this. The next question is a book you haven't stopped thinking about, and I actually lent this out to a friend because when I love a book and I can't stop thinking about it, especially when that book is literally my favorite book of the year, I need somebody to read it immediately so I can talk to them about it, and that book is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. You guys will never hear me shut up about this book because I literally love it so much. I already talked about the two main characters, Peyton and Kai, in this video, but Peyton is just so strong, like I said, and Kai and her answer is just everything. And the fact that in the society she's like the only ordinary in a world of like people with superpowers, and if they found out she was an ordinary, they would literally kill her like on the spot. Like, I just absolutely loved how high stakes it was. I absolutely loved the plot. The plot was so interesting and intriguing, and there was also, guys, there was like balls, like dancing and like pretty dresses and stuff like that, and she has silver hair. Come on. And the banter was fantastic. Enemies to lovers, romantasy. Obviously I haven't stopped thinking about it. Like, come on. The next question is the cringiest book of the year. Now, I have a series for this. I don't know if this will come as a surprise because I actually did a whole video on this series. So if you watched that, you would know that these really were not my favorite, and that is the Summer I Turned Pretty series. So we have The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We'll Always Have Summer. Now, do I love the show? Yeah. I do love the show. You know, it's just like a cute little show to watch. I think that it's better as a show, in my opinion. It is a little bit different from the books as well. They don't follow the books exactly. In the books, I almost feel like they're too short, and the love triangle, the way that it's done in the books, it just irks me. I definitely think that the last one was my favorite. A lot of people say that the first one is their favorite because it's like nostalgic and cute. It's okay. I really feel like nothing really happened in this one. I think maybe it's just like a little bit more character driven. That's why it's not like they were like trying to do something or anything like that. Like, the main plot in here is just that she goes to the Fisher's house every summer, and that's like honestly really it, which is fine if that's what you want. Like, this is a book more for the vibes and not for the plot, like I said. It's just some of the decisions in these books felt too YA. Like, when I read a Lynn Painter YA book, I'm never like, well, that's not entirely true. Sometimes I'm like, why'd they say that? Like, but like, this had too much of that. You know what I mean? Am I a 22-year-old reading YA books? Of course. But sometimes it's just too much. That's all I'm trying to say, okay? The next one is an unpopular book that you loved. This one I really haven't heard people talking about. My friend Olivia told me to read it, and maybe it was more hyped up like in the past, but it was actually the last book that I finished, and it is The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. This book is another book that is more character driven than plot driven, and it is a contemporary adult romance, but I'm still not completely sure where my rating stands on this, but this book did like low-key shock me just because of the story and how connected I kind of felt to it. Now, does this have my least favorite trope? Yeah, it does. It does. But I genuinely, I don't know if I loved it, but I liked it a lot. And there's also so many things that like I underlined in here because the writing was just very beautiful. And it's basically talking about like whenever you find that person that just sets you on fire, like you're so in love with them, but you can't be together, and kind of explaining them going on with life without you, and then the ending just like absolutely wrecks you. It was insane. So I don't know, normally a book like this wouldn't be my favorite. I don't know if I was just like in the absolute mood for it or what, but I loved it. Even though it had some of my least favorite tropes, I really did. I loved / liked it a lot. Okay, and then we have the highest rated book and the lowest rated book that was on Goodreads that I read this year. The highest rated book that I read this year on Goodreads was Akamath, aka A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series and a lot of people's favorite. And this was rated a 4.64 on Goodreads, which is like very high. I think that I agree with this to a certain standpoint. I think that because like the ACOTAR series is so hyped up, it's obviously gonna have high ratings for almost every single book, especially because not only is it hyped up, people love it and eat it up, and it's some of people's like first fantasy books as well. It gets a lot of people into fantasy. I don't agree that this is the highest rated in the series though. Personally, my favorite from the series, like I already said, was Akawar, A Court of Wings and Ruin. I just absolutely love this. It's a little bit more plot driven. This one has a lot more romance in it, so I think that's why a lot more people enjoyed this one, especially if they weren't really into fantasy before. But this one was my personal favorite. I love this one. Okay, and then the lowest rated book that I read this year, which I honestly like wasn't surprised by because a lot of people didn't really talk about it. I saw a few people read it, I guess, but I actually just went to the bookstore and I saw the cover and I read the back and I was like, this sounds cute, which honestly I need to start doing more. I just don't really do it that often. The lowest book that I read though was Summer Reading by Jen McKenlay, and it was rated a 3.52. I don't agree that it was the lowest rated book that I read this year because for me it wasn't the lowest rated. I actually really enjoyed this book. There were one or two cringy moments that I didn't enjoy, but I really liked the writing and I liked the characters a lot. I liked the plot a lot. This was just a very cutesy summer reading, I hope it is, but it was, and I really liked it. So I don't agree with it being the lowest rated, but 3.52 kind of makes sense for it, I guess. I'm pretty sure I rated this a 4-star, so it's only like a 0.5 down from my rating, but I definitely don't agree with the fact that it was the lowest rated book this year because I definitely had books that I rated a lot lower. Okay, now we have some of my favorite quotes of the year. I'm not gonna lie, this was a little bit hard for me because I just started getting into like underlining and stuff like that and annotating later in the year, so there are probably a few that I missed that I will not remember until I reread some of my favorite books, but I ended up picking out 3 specific quotes that really stood out to me. The first quote is from The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and it is, "There's nothing of equal value to me." If you know, you know. That quote just like sent me spiraling. It was everything. The next quote is from Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I just read this recently, and when I heard this quote, especially because it's in a YA rom-com, I was just so stunned. Like, I took a picture of it immediately and I just absolutely will never forget about this. The quote is, "When you're in the room, every single cell in my body, every nerve, every muscle, every breath is lost in you." No words. Love it. Absolutely love it. And the next one is a classic. I did end up reading Beach Read for the first time this year by Emily Henry, and this one is one that everybody thinks of whenever they think of this book, and it is, "When I watch you sleep, I feel overwhelmed that you exist." And the second quote just reminded me so much of the third quote, and I think that's why I like them both so much. And I just, the fact that he says this to her, Gus is just everything. I love this man. I love him. I love this man. Now we have the book with the most unique concept. This one was a little bit tough for me because I feel like with a lot of romance novels, you have a lot of tropes that come back up and you have a lot of plot lines that come back up just because that's like the most of what I read this year. So it's kind of hard to come up with, but I ended up picking Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. First of all, the typewriters, the magical typewriters. Everything. I feel like in a way that's been done with texting in romance novels, so that's not like the craziest thing, but the fact that it was typewriters was awesome. The gods in the world and the war that was going on, very interesting concept. The whole thing with Iris's brother and like those plot lines, it was just absolutely crazy. Her being a war correspondent, like everything about this book was just insane, and I didn't really find myself knowing what was going to come next. I just thought it was very interesting, especially because there was like a war going on, so obviously it's kind of hard to know what's going to happen next, but it was just a very interesting concept. Definitely the most romantic book that I read this year. I know I've said this about this book a lot, but it's just true. I don't know. I just loved it. It was just very unique. I would say another unique one is the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, but it's a lot less unique. There's like a prophecy thing going on in that book, which is like very common, but also just the way Stephanie Garber writes. Like, she's such a queen. You just never know what's coming next. Like, everything's just so crazy, and I don't know if I've seen those exact plot lines happen in books before, but she just did a wonderful job, and I absolutely know no book that is like just like this one. So I loved those 2 books specifically just because they were very different from anything that I've truly read before. Okay, what is this not for? Fortnite? What? I didn't know there was Lego Fortnite now. That's kind of sick. Okay. Oh my gosh, there are so many ads. Lovely. We're back now. Okay, 3 more questions. The next one is books that you read that you would reread. And I feel like there are literally so many that I would be willing to reread, but 2 that I haven't really talked about yet would be Happy Place and then also Beach Read, just because I absolutely love these books. The stories in these books were so good. I love the characters. I connected to them on such a deep level. And I just love Emily Henry's writing. That's really it. I mean, I could also see myself reading a lot of other books, but I kind of already talked about them. Normally, if a book's a 5-star, you like want to reread it again. Now into my 2023 reading goal and kind of like reflecting on the year. The craziest part to me that this was the year that I truly started like reading. I started reading more than one book a month in the month of May, which is actually crazy that it hasn't really been that long, because I feel like I've always been reading this much. And I know that ever since then, ever since I started doing that and like picking up my pace with my reading and just like in general reading more, I don't ever want to stop. Like, this is something that I want to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, just because escaping into books is literally like none other. It is like nothing else that is a form of escapism, and I just absolutely love it. I love it so much. When I ended up finding the Goodreads app this year, I started my reading goal at 40 books, and then I ended up feeling like I could go a little bit more, went to 52. And then I went to 60 because I kind of got to the end of the year and I was like, I think I could go a little bit more. So I upped it again and I ended up hitting that goal. So far this year, I have read 61 books actually, which is great. It's always great to hit the goal. And now that we're talking about goals and stuff like that, obviously like everybody's goals are different. Everybody reads as little or as much as they have time for in their personal lives. So don't feel bad or nag on people if you've read more or read less or whatever than them, because it is all just such a personal experience. But with saying that, it does feel good to hit the goal, and I am very proud of myself. For my 2024 reading year, since I am now starting to read quite a few books in a month, I do think that I want to try and reach 100 books next year, which I think is possible because normally I read around 8-ish books every month, give or take a few sometimes, because of just like the length of some books are obviously bigger than others, or sometimes I'll read like a few shorter books. So I'm really hoping to read 100. If I surpass that, wonderful and amazing. If I don't, that's also okay, but that's what we're going to be striving for in the new year, and I feel like I can honestly do it. And then the last question is, after my 2023 reading year, what do I want to prioritize in 2024? One of the biggest things that I want to do is I want to make sure that if a book has been on my TBR for a long time, I want to read it as quickly as I can. And what I actually just recently started doing is I've been thinking about the books that I bought like last year. During this time, like specifically on Black Friday, I bought so many books and there was quite a few that I hadn't read yet. I'm reading one right now and then I just read one, and it feels good to kind of like get my TBR down, because I feel like if I don't do that and I don't read the books that I've had for a while, and I don't like mentally know that I've had them for a while, then I'm just like never gonna get to them. And I don't know why I put those off. I think it's just because I'm so much more excited for like the newer books that I end up getting, which totally makes sense because everybody's talking about them at the time that I bought it. But I definitely want to get more through my physical TBR next year. My physical TBR isn't really like anything crazy. I think I have like 20 books on my physical TBR because I truly knocked it down a lot in like the past like month or two, because I haven't been buying a lot of books because obviously I was asking for books for Christmas and stuff like that, so I couldn't buy the ones that were on my list just in case like they got bought for me for Christmas, even though I really wanted to. So yeah, I don't know, just making sure my physical TBR stays down and to not go crazy with buying too many books. Maybe like on my birthday next year I'll do like a bigger haul, but besides that I don't want to go crazy with buying books unless I'm ready to like read them in that moment. We'll see if I stick with that, but I'm stating it here, so hopefully it happens and you guys can keep me accountable. I also really want to finish the Massiverse next year. I've already finished the Akatar series and I did a bunch of videos on that, so if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and check that out. I am currently reading Throne of Glass. I finished Assassin's Blade I think 2 weeks ago and I really enjoyed it. I ended up reading it first. I'm also going to be doing a reading vlog on this entire series, so be on the lookout for that. The next one I have to read is Throne of Glass and I'm very excited. I also don't feel too overwhelmed with this series because like the first 3 aren't that long, and then obviously you get into the longer ones, but at least the first 3 aren't that long. And then obviously we have Crescent City. The 3rd one is coming out at the end of January. Now I don't think I'll be able to finish Throne of Glass by the end of January and Crescent City. That would be literally insane. But I do want to try and finish those at like the beginning half of the year and then try and focus on other fantasy books and stuff like that at like the end of the year next year. Okay guys, those are all the questions for the end of your book tag. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe got a book recommendation out of it. I don't know. I'm going to be tagging all of you guys, anybody who wants to do this, whether you want to write it in the comments down below or do your own video. Go ahead and tag me in that too, because I would love to see all of your guys' opinions on the books that you guys read this year. I will leave all of the questions in the comments down below so you can just copy and paste and then answer. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I cannot believe that it is already the end of 2023. I'm so excited for what reading has in store for me in 2024, and if you guys have any opinions on these books, any books you want me to read, any videos, anything anything like that, leave that in the comments down below as well. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, all those things. And also don't forget to check me out on Instagram and TikTok too. I post on those quite frequently, and we'll be posting a lot more in the new year too, just because I won't be so overwhelmed with doing a bunch of YouTube videos for Bookmas. Okay, I think that's it. I will see you guys in my next video for the last day of Bookmas and for my last video of 2023. Literally blows my mind. Anyways, hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Bye guys. Happy holidays. Bye.